So at the north point of Franklinton, the neighborhood where St. John's Parish is located, there's the Scioto and the Olentangy that come together in Confluence right there, and then wrap around, kind of framing the neighborhood. And that's really kind of the framing point for the story I wanted to share today. We have a part of this intentional community, and we were getting together, gathering, trying to figure out, ask the question of how do we be in relationship with each other and faithful to Christ? How do we be in spaces with the marginalized and forgotten places and figure out just what it means to love our neighbor and to care for each other and to be the community of God? And so we decided to all move into Franklinton and the Bottoms in Columbus, Ohio on the Lower West Side. And as we moved down there, we were making friends with many folks in the homeless camps, which dotted the neighborhood. And they kept talking about street church, street church, street church. So one Sunday afternoon, decided to wander down the alley from my house to street church. This ended up being in an open parking lot a couple blocks away. So get down there, and what I find in this parking lot is this collection of homeless, squatters, neighbors, and folks from St. John Episcopal Church in Franklinton. And what was amazing in this space was they left their paintbrushes at home. They were in relationship. They knew these folks. This wasn't a program, an outreach, or a ministry like I'd experienced with so many institutional churches that had attempted to do work among the poor, but it was just friendship. It was the second service happened to happen outside. And the beauty of the relationships that have formed there, because the folks from St. John's were there each and every week, rain, snow, shine, no matter how hot or cold or windy or wet. And so we found surprising partners in our endeavor to figure out how to love a neighbor. And partners that were from this parish that had been there over 100 years, had been faithfully part of asking that question about the neighborhood, that have been enlivened by their liturgy, their prayers to go and to be Christ in that space. And so a beautiful relationship formed between our intentional community, between St. John's, and we needed all that wisdom. We needed that gray hair. We needed people that could speak into us words of insight, words of hope, of sustenance, and could introduce us to different practices, spiritual practice that created the space for God to act in our lives and to continue to sustain that work. So there's a beautiful thing that started to form, and they said, we see just the whole neighborhood as the parish. So what dreams, what visions do you have? We want to get behind them and lend you our wisdom and resources. So out of that were born Franklinton Cycle Works, a bicycle co-op where folks, our friends and neighbors could come in, could work on their bikes, could learn together, could form community around shared learning and practice, and around a real tangible need of transportation, of turning vacant and abandoned lots in the neighborhood into gardens, which just created beautiful spaces out of something empty and barren. A great example of the way St. John's joined in, this was given up part of their parking lot, which if you know about parking in urban situations is tough to come by, so that we could have a produce and a market stand that actually sold this locally grown organic produce there in the neighborhood. So all this was happening, these new things were being given birth to, and Reverend Leigh Enrique came to us and said, how can we keep this to ourselves? We can't keep this dammed up. What's happening, this confluence that's coming together, we need to share this, to pass it on. And so I raised my hand and said, well, I'd like to be part of passing that on. Let's do that. How do we do it? And out of that was born the Confluence program, which is a year-long Episcopal service course site in Franklinton. Renovated a house across the street from the church and invited in 5 young adults from across the country that were asking questions about, what does it mean to love your neighbor when they're on the margins? What does it mean to go into forgotten places? What does it mean to do justice and be attentive to God? And how does that come together? And it's been beautiful to see and hear the stories of these 5 young adults as they come and gather and spend their time out working with organizations like the Coalition for Homelessness and Housing in Ohio, the Ohio Association of Food Banks, as they work in the neighborhood with the gardens and the cycle works and worship at street church, and then bring those stories together back around the table, back at the table there for dinner, and share their experiences, to share their questions, to share their concerns, their worries about where is God in this, about, can I be part of this? Do I have something to really offer? And as they explore those questions with one another, you see answers starting to form. You see people starting to form that care for one another, that care for their neighbor, and are starting to figure out what it's going to mean for them to care for the world. And that's what's so exciting is now, okay, so when that dam gets released and they leave after this year and go out, what are they going to take out into our wider community, into the world, into other churches? And so it's exciting to be part of this new life that's coming through this confluence, this merging together.